Hello, welcome back to Exploring DC, where we take a piece of DC media and explore it. Thank you for coming on this journey with us. I am Josh Dobson, and with me is my one and only co-host for tonight, Jackson Wells. Jackson, how are you?
We're talking about Green Lantern,
We're,
Green Lantern. Eh,
dude,
We're
that's
talking
the
about
that's
Green
the physical
Lantern, the
copy. It's
Blackest
very.
Night. It's the
Did you
physical
just get
copy. It's
that?
my buddy's. No, it's my friend's. He gave it to me like 2 months ago, and I didn't read it till this past week.
I'm gonna say, so I put off reading it to like the very last moment because it's what I've done a lot with how school's been. I've been delaying putting off what we're supposed to watch or read. So it's a couple nights ago, and I'm like, all right, I'm signing up for DC Universe Infinite, the subscription service.
Yeah,
Would not take my payment, bro. Tried everything. Tried the
that's
app,
crazy.
tried the website, looked it up. Apparently, it's just a common issue. And then, like, people have tried asking for customer support, and they're like, yeah, that happens. We're working on a patch or whatever.
That's
Literally
wild.
could not pay them to read it. So I ended up subscribing to
Did you
Amazon
get a
Kin.
refund?
No, I didn't. I couldn't subscribe at all.
Oh,
Like, it would just
okay.
say,
So you didn't lose any money at least.
no, I didn't lose any money.
Okay.
It was going to be a free trial anyway, because that's how it, like, works usually with those things.
Yeah.
But anyway, could not subscribe to it at all. So I went and subscribed to a free trial of Amazon Kindle Unlimited because they had it on there. And so that's what I used. And
Okay.
it was very frustrating. Like, I am not big on pirating if I can avoid it. And you make it really hard sometimes when you literally won't let me pay for your fucking service.
Dude, you have more patience than I do.
Yeah,
I would have been on read comics online like after 2 seconds of
bro. I
trying.
I was debating it, but I'm like, no, because like I'm gonna read it sporadically, so I'd rather just have it easy
Yeah.
to access. Also, if you're listening audio only, I have a Green Lantern shirt that I
It's
found.
the exact same one that the dude wears in Big Bang Theory.
That's what I was thinking. I feel like such a nerd. Like, I don't want to wear this in public, but it's Green Lantern comic book day. It's St. Patrick's Day when we're recording it. It's the perfect shirt.
Yeah.
Jackson's not wearing any green, so I'm allowed to pinch
I
him.
actually no, that's not true. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
That doesn't
Bang.
count.
That
That's
it's
like
green. It is green. What the fuck do you mean
that
it
looks
doesn't
that
count?
looks that looks like dark gray. That
That's
barely
because of
looks
the
green.
lighting. It is green. My shirt is green. On Jalen, this shirt is green. Actually, on my own soul, this shirt is green. It
Yeah.
is for my school. It is my school's shirt. My school is green themed, and that is a green
Ooh.
shirt. So
Okay.
you're wrong, actually.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
fuck
so
off.
was like everyone on campus just easy today because it was just
Yes, everybody was
okay.
wearing the same shirt I was.
Yeah. I honestly I did not see a lot of green. I saw like a few shirts, but everyone showed up for like drinking on the weekend in
Yeah.
green, but like when it came to actually today, it was just all normal clothes and
Oh no, of
stuff. So
course.
I don't know. Jalen is not here this week. He's a little busy. A little bummed though because he is our Green Lantern guy, and this was his big pick, and
And I
man
know
didn't
he's
show up.
listening to this, so Jalen, you better have a good fucking reason not to be here. I'm gonna grill you about it
Boo.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I guess by the time this comes out on Wednesday.
Yes, comes out on
All
Wednesday.
right. Well, by the time you're hearing this, I already would have grilled you. But just know you're in for it, buddy.
Yeah. So, but we will continue on in his stead. Blackest Night is a comic book miniseries from 2009 to 2010. It tied into a bunch of other issues, but also had its own like event series that ran for 8 issues. That is what I read because it was like the collection was just Blackest Night 1 through 8, and then a couple prequel comics. I don't know if what you read had any other tie-in
So
stuff.
what I read had a prelude,
Yes, well, mine had that too, where
and
it
then
talks
I
about
just read 1 through 8 or
okay,
0 through 8. I guess it's 0 through 8, but I didn't read. Or no, it has Green Lantern 43, Blackest Night 0 through 8. So that's what I read.
I'm pretty sure I did the same thing. So I think we read basically the essentials, but I know there was a bunch of tie-in stuff.
I'm
That's why I
sure
was
there was.
I was excited because DC Universe had all that, but again, they wouldn't fucking take my money, so I had to read just like the.
How many tie-in comics are there?
There's a lot. There's like at least 10 to
Okay,
15
cool.
from what I
So,
saw.
like, just for reference, the main run. This is a just for comparison to the readers at home. The main storyline of Devil's Reign is 6 issues.
Yeah,
And this is how big the one I have is with all the fucking spin-off comics.
that's a
So like
chunky book.
no, the spin-off like issues for these big event comics can be chunky as hell.
Right. Um,
So I don't doubt that, and there's so many characters in this storyline. I don't doubt that there's just a plethora of
let me see.
spin-offs.
So Blackest Night, to describe it, it's kind of about William Hand, this Black Hand guy who there was a prelude. There's two event series that came out before this called Rebirth and Sinestro Corps War, and it basically opened up the idea of having other Lantern Corps. So instead of just Green Lantern and Sinestro having yellow rings, now we had blue rings and red rings and orange rings, and there was
Yeah,
this prophecy of a Blackest Night that would challenge all them, and all the rings would have to come together. So this guy William Hand, there's this evil force called Necron that's taking him over and convinces him to do all this murder and bring back all these people. And so Blackest Night is essentially the Black Lantern Corps, which feeds on all these corpses and reanimates people, and the entire DC universe has to come up against it. I feel like that covers it pretty well. It's kind of hard to explain because there's so much, which I'll get into. There's so much tying into past stuff from like New 52 and other past events that it makes it kind of muddled to jump right in.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot going on in this one. Do you wanna start off with your general thoughts?
Yeah, so I was very aware of this. I knew as a big comic, I knew basically I read a lot of New 52 Aquaman and New 52 stuff in general that Blackest Night was a thing. I knew it was like the up seminal Green Lantern. I would say it's the main Green Lantern storyline that people think of, besides the like maybe the Parallax stuff. And my actual big remembering of all this stuff was Lego Batman 3 because it had all the Green Lantern Corps and all the other Lantern Corps people in it, and they all fought Brainiac and stuff. But I just remember going to like all the different Atrocitus and Larfleeze and all these different planets and stuff. But I had no like knowledge of all the specifics of it, and I thought it was a lot to take in. There was stuff that it was cool what it commented on about how so many characters come back from the dead in the comics, and how that could be seen as like cheating death, kind of
Yeah.
a Final Destination style thing. But overall, I didn't find it really to have the emotional weight or anything that I was kind of hoping it would. I don't know how you feel. Initial thoughts.
You kind of just summed it up for me.
Yeah?
I yeah, I so just for I guess a bit of context, like these big event comics aren't usually what I gravitate towards when reading comics. I usually prefer kind of more character driven storylines. Like I love the Matt Fraction Hawkeye run. I love some of Frank Miller's Batman stuff. Uh, I generally like Supergirl, 1 Minute Tomorrow, stuff like that. Um, I generally prefer that to, the big giant event things, just because they're more character focused. And this is kind of the same for me. I feel like you get to a certain point in this comic where it kind of just becomes it literally like the last I don't know 3 or 4 issues are just one giant action scene, right?
Right.
And you're getting a lot of that kind of standard comic book dialogue, and it's fun to read. The art's beautiful, but like you just don't feel like you're getting. I didn't at least feel like I was getting much oomph out of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's almost too broad and too consuming of the entire DC universe, and trying to focus on too many characters, and especially ones that like have these storylines that are set up from prior stuff, because there's a lot of focus on characters like the Atom or the Flash, and
Yeah, because
it was
it's
just
it's a Barry Allen comic almost just as much as a Hal Jordan one, right?
yeah, because it focuses a lot on him coming back for the first time, and that's where I felt it was hard to access. And I can't imagine, like, it's even harder, I imagine, for someone that doesn't have a lot of that comic history. Because I was aware of stuff that happened with the Atom and his girlfriend and Elongated Man and stuff like that. And I was aware of the Flash disappearing and coming back, and even Batman dying, or dying in quotes, from the dark side thing. But if I was someone that was, like, very new didn't know a lot, knew about the Justice League, and I'm like, I'll read this Green Lantern comic because I hear good things about it. I feel like I'm gonna be super lost.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I guess I was in kind of I was somewhere in between the oblivious guy picking this up because he heard good things in you, because there were some things I was aware of, like I was aware of Batman dying, but like some of the stuff like Ray, I didn't have as much knowledge of. So there were parts where I was like, oh, I'm totally disconnected from what's going on here, and parts where I was like, all right, I know what happened there. I get, I can follow this pretty easily. And it's like there's no shortage of exposition. The book reminds you maybe a little too much of
Yeah.
what's going on. It might hold your hand maybe just a tad too much. There were a few times when I feel like he was telling me just the same thing in different fonts, but yeah.
I wanted to touch on the obviously this is Jeff Johns' kind of baby, and Jeff Johns has become a very public figure, I would say, in DC, especially now that he started producing a lot of the DCU movies and he worked on a lot of the DC TV shows. But he was the main writer on this Green Lantern run. He also wrote Flashpoint, which has been adapted a couple times. He wrote Doomsday Clock from a couple years ago. He wrote Throne of Atlantis, the Aquaman New 52 story. He's worked on a lot of DC stuff, and he's one of those big writers out there. And also, he created the Stargirl character, which became its own show. Do
Hmm.
you have any like knowledge of Jeff Johns and his work, or were you kind of pretty surface level with him?
He was wrapped up in the controversy with that 2017 Justice League movie, wasn't he?
He was producing on a lot of the DCU just
Okay, that's
throughout
what I thought. Yeah, yeah.
those years.
Yeah, because he wrote Wonder Woman 84, didn't he?
I think so. Yeah, he
He
was
co-wrote
involved.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and Jeff Johns was one of the big spearheads. He was one of the big ones behind New 52, yeah?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, yeah. So I've read some of his New 52 stuff. I've been kind of iffy on a lot of it, to be honest with you. Um, and this is part of the New 52 wave, right?
Oh yeah, it's hugely ties into New
Okay,
52
that's
and
what I
all
thought.
that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. But I thought that the writing was kind of a weaker link to me in this one, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest. Uh, I don't know. Maybe I need to get my hands on like a Jeff Johns book that is more character driven, because I feel like a lot of what I've read from him are the big event things.
Well, because I like Flashpoint a lot, the book. I
That's
think
right. He
he
wrote Flashpoint. Yes,
right.
I
That's
do like
pretty
that
well
one.
written.
Yeah, yeah.
And some of his stuff, because I know him a lot from the TV side. He worked pretty. I mean,
He did a
help
lot.
he did help create Titans, which is not great, but he did also put Doom Patrol into the world. He put Stargirl. He was a big part of getting Stargirl out there, big part of getting Superman and Lois out there and stuff like that. So
Doom
he's
Patrol's
done
good.
a he's done a lot of good for the TV and film space. Even if he did do Justice League, he still produced like Aquaman and Birds of Prey and stuff like that. He's one of those DC creatives that I like that he's involved with stuff. He's kind of a Dave Filoni type, I guess, for DC, where I there's stuff that I really like about him, but also he is kind of involved in a lot where sometimes it kind of
It's
you
over.
can tell
It's
that
yeah,
it's focused on what he wants to focus on and not what maybe the story needs
yeah.
to.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm actually going to ask you a little bit of a lore question here. When were all these other like Lantern Corps introduced?
So that was they had the New 52 Green Lantern run, and that was around the Sinestro Corps, which is part two. They had a Sinestro Corps war of the Green Lanterns versus the Yellow Lanterns and stuff. And that set up all these other tribes. So the Indigo tribe, the Star Sapphires, which are already kind of a thing, but now they have their own lantern section. Atrocitus and the Red Lanterns, and then the Orange Lanterns, and all these different. It
Atrocitus is
was
a crazy name, by the way.
yeah, he's and it's a crazy lantern section where it's just like pure rage. It's kind of hard to separate that from the Yellow Lanterns because they're kind of similar in a way, but
Yeah.
it's a little bit corny, I will admit, like having all these different lantern spectrums and just having a range of emotions. But at the
It
same
looks
time,
cool.
yeah, it makes the world feel so much bigger
Yeah.
than what Green Lantern originally was. How did you feel about their inclusion in this?
I thought it was fun. I really enjoyed seeing all the I mean, you're right. It was kind of corny, but like at the same time, it's cool. So
Yeah,
I'm good. Um, it was. I will say the part that really got me was when like the fucking rings started flying off and they got to Scarecrow and Lex Luthor.
Yeah, that's
I was
when
like, that's crazy.
it kind of became fan fiction-y to a point
It did.
where
It got so chaotic, and I wish that it lived in that chaos just a tad more. It was like Barry got a ring, Diana got a ring, Mara got a ring, and honestly, she probably had the coolest. She probably looked the coolest with her lantern out of all
yeah,
like the DC superheroes who got a lantern. I thought she probably had the coolest design. That
I thought it
red
was
was sick.
interesting that it affected her like heart and stuff too.
Yeah, yeah, that was interesting.
But yeah, it got kind of it reminded me of a couple of years ago when the Black Adam was taking over everything with DC, where they did the
Yeah.
publishing
Oh my
side
God, you're
and
so right.
everyone became Black Adam for like a couple frames. I'm like, that's not to that corny of an extent, but that's what the Scarecrow Lex Luthor Wonder Woman thing felt like to
Yeah,
me.
and it's interesting to me because when the book started, when I started reading, it played like a straight up horror comic,
Yeah,
you
which I
know, and
liked.
I liked it too, and it switched up real quick. I thought,
Yeah,
and I don't know, it might have been just right after the prelude ended, it kind of switched up, like right as, but even like that first inter, I'm sorry, I'm looking through it right now, but like even these first couple of bits with Hal, where he's just talking about how everyone fucking died, I thought was really good.
yeah.
Um, but it's like as soon as it started to ramp up, it kind of okay. It literally was once the prelude ended. Um, it very much became more generic. I don't want to say generic, but by the books cape shit.
Right.
But there was still some really cool imagery, like oh god, what's the dude's name that stretches? Elongated Man.
Yeah, Elongated
Okay,
Man.
yeah, yeah. I thought like the undead version of him looked awesome. That reminded me of Coraline. There's like this bit where the dad kind of stretches out and morphs. It really reminded it was that's what that visual reminded me of, and I thought it was really creepy and effective. But you would get these moments of incredible violence, and then so like I don't know what this comic is rated, but they're tearing people's hearts out. People are getting their faces bashed in. It's real bloody. But then like 2 pages later, you know, they'll be saying some shit like, "On it, I'm on it, gotta
There was a
go."
there was a part to me that was pretty crazy where it was the Atom. The Atom goes through it in this whole
He really
comic.
does.
Or no, it wasn't Atom. That's a separate thing. But Firestorm, sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't mean
yeah,
the Atom.
yeah.
Firestorm is now
They
it's
all
not
went
Ronnie
through it.
Raymond and Professor Stein anymore. It's this couple, which is Jen and Jason,
Yeah,
who
I was gonna ask
becomes
who the fuck are they?
Jason is someone that has merged with Stein before. He was like the
Okay,
second Firestorm. He was actually the Firestorm that was on I think Jax Jefferson was based on Jason. I don't think
okay,
or they were separate. But anyway, it's like similar to that where Jax was the character on Legends after they got rid
got
of
you.
Robbie Amell. But yeah, he's merged with his girlfriend and they're doing Firestorm now. There's this messed up part where Ronnie is a Black Lantern and he comes up and he takes over Jason, puts him in his Firestorm Matrix, and then just brutally kills the girlfriend. And I was like, this is taking a very dark tonal shift.
It is inconsistent in that way, isn't it? Because like I feel like if it had committed to that horror tone, moments like that would probably hit a little bit harder.
Yeah. Where it yeah, because it felt like so few and far between, it felt a little more off. But at the same
Hmm.
time, that's the stuff I really liked. I wanted to ask about the opening prelude because we learn a lot about William Hand, and he's kind of set up. He's the son of a mortician, and he's has an obsession with death, and he becomes
Hmm.
this low level hero for or low level villain for Green Lantern, where he dresses up and Green Lantern
Now
keeps
was
beating him.
I was gonna ask again? I'm not as familiar with Green Lantern. Does
Yeah,
did he pop up in Green Lantern comics ahead of this, or was this?
I believe so. Again, that
That's
would
cool.
be good to have Jalen here to fully get into that, but
Yeah, Jalen.
he wasn't a character that was created for this comic, as far
Okay,
as I'm aware. But anyway, he gets possessed by Necron, and Necron's basically like you have to kill your whole family and then yourself, and then you can harness the power of the Black Lanterns. I thought that was a pretty strong opening. I was pretty hooked by
it was.
what
Yeah,
they were doing.
that was probably my favorite part of the whole thing because I thought it just really lived in its mood. Like there's this page where he's going around, he's just looking at, you're just seeing every single superhero dying in a horrible way. It's really
Yeah.
cool. And even like, you're seeing Boomerang get shot. You're seeing like, all this, and it's really bleak. And I really love that. I wish that I wish that that's a tone that kind of, and it ends up, sorry, it ends up with
Mm.
him like killing himself too. And I wish that's just something that we got to live in.
I will say too, I think he starts off really strong, but then because of how big the event gets and how all these characters come back, he gets lost in the shuffle
He
a
really
lot of
does.
times where he comes back and I'm like, okay, yeah,
He's
you're
here again.
still. And then especially when Necron becomes his own force and character, he
Yeah.
really gets lost in the sauce. And I'm like, I would have loved to see more of him because I thought he
Hmm.
was a really interesting antagonist.
And it also like it. Speaking of like getting lost in the shuffle, I feel that way for like a lot of the characters in this because it's like you get to a certain point in the book and then suddenly, oh, the Titans are here, and
Right.
then they just kind of like don't do anything,
No, they don't. Like you
you
get
know?
see Donna Troy get possessed and that's
Yeah.
about it.
And it's like, well, they're not there for the entire front leg of the book. They're there for like two panels and then they're gone. And it's like I feel like they felt like that they had to include certain characters. Now maybe they have like a spin-off comic too that I didn't read, but
Yeah. One of the things I did like, though, that I touched on was that I liked how this was somewhat of a commentary on how
yes,
superhero media
that was
in
interesting.
general. It's basically like, hey, people are dying all the time and people are coming back all the time. Right now, we have a lot of characters that are dead in this current era of the DC universe whenever they were publishing this in 2009, 2010. Let's play with that idea and bring people back. And it plays like Final Destination, where Necron's like, you're cheating death. We need to restore some sort of balance. And that's an interesting motivation where it's not just like, I'm trying to take over the world or anything. It's, I want to bring balance to all these people because they keep coming back to life and cheating what is supposed to be like the final
Yeah.
plane. How did you feel about all that?
I thought that that was something that could have been fleshed out much more than it was, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah,
Because it wasn't doing it in like a wink and a nod, oh, look at this kind of way. They did it in a very organic way, in my opinion. And I guess, obviously, I mean, they killed everybody leading up to this, I assume. But I thought that, again, that's something else that kind of got lost in the shuffle to me, where there was so much going on. It was so bang, bang, bang that it didn't get the chance to really explore or flesh out those themes in a way that I thought landed in a profound way.
yeah. It's one of those things where I wonder if I had read the prior comic series that led up to it and maybe fleshed that out a bit, if I would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah, I do wonder that as well because I have found that in comics before when I read these big events and I'm like I don't know what the hell is happening and then I go back and I read the things leading up to it and then I read it I'm like oh that makes a lot more sense.
It kind of played like an Arrowverse crossover where you can watch
You
those,
were so right. That is
but
exactly what it is.
right, you can watch those, but at the same time, they're gonna have a random subplot about Daigle or Iris or something, and you're gonna be lost if you hadn't caught up with what was going on before. But you can still
Yeah.
like enjoy it. It just doesn't feel like a self-contained story. And maybe we got treated with Kingdom Come being so self-contained and so easy to access, where this
Yeah.
one felt a little trickier to fully digest.
Well, you're much more reliant on your greater DC knowledge, where with Kingdom Come, you really just need to know about like four characters, which is you need to know about Lex, you need to know about Bruce, you need to know about Diana and Clark. And if you've ever picked up a comic book in your life, you know who those four people are.
Yeah.
So you're good.
Th-
Um,
this one took a completely different approach. The Trinity is on the back burner. Batman's dead.
yeah.
Superman has. I don't even know if he has a speaking line. He might have a line or two.
Yeah, oh, and that's another thing. It's like he just kind of shows up and then he
Right.
dies.
He just
Where
kind of
was he
shows
the whole
up.
time?
And Wonder Woman is there, but also not really. This
Yeah.
story focuses on Hal Jordan, which is obvious. It's the main Green Lantern. Barry Allen, because he just came back from the dead and he's like the one that's cheating death. But then Ray Palmer and Mara, which is the
Yeah.
most odd. I liked it. Especially with Ray, I thought there was a lot to unpack there. especially if
Yeah.
you knew the history of Jean Loring and Elongated Man and all that happened there. But Mara, I thought, was maybe an odd inclusion. It was cool when she became a Red Lantern, but before that, I don't really know how much she offered to everything.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time with her, and it doesn't really feel like that they gave her a compelling character arc or anything. She was just kind of having a really bad time,
Yeah.
and that was her character. Was, oh, I'm having a really bad time because Aquaman's dead. My husband's dead. He's fucking dead, and I don't know what to do. And
Well,
that was kind of her character.
she even talks about how she has no personal stake because her
Yeah,
husband's dead, her
literally.
kid's dead,
Yeah.
Garth's dead. She's like, what do I have to offer? And Barry gives her a little pep talk. But I'm like, it's just an interesting side character. It reminds me of when you do, which we can talk about the comparisons here, but you know how Marvel Zombies is a thing, and they
I
focus
wasn't
on
gonna
random
say it.
characters.
I
Right, they
wasn't
focus
gonna
on
say
random
it, bro.
characters.
I was thinking it the whole time, and I
Yeah,
wasn't gonna say it. Uh,
let's get into it. It's a
it
similar
was it
it's a
was
similar
given
comparison,
it was given Jimmy Woo.
right? It's giving
Yeah, it's given, what a weird fucking roster that show has. Mahershala Ali is Blade. That'll
right.
be the only time we probably ever see him.
So that
Mahershala Ali as Blade is Moon Knight. Yeah, fucking
Marvel
hell.
Zombie show that's coming out has a bunch of random side characters fighting off all the main Marvel Universe people as zombies. This felt similar, but for DC, except it was a little more interesting of a roster than
I would agree with that. It was random, but
it worked.
it worked. I agree.
Yeah. What else did you really appreciate or dislike that we could get into right here?
Again, I love the art. I liked the idea. I liked I liked the prelude a lot. And there were some other cool scenes like when Hal crashed into the bat signal. That was a really
That
cool
was,
visual. Um,
yeah,
Again, yeah, the art is really cool. I feel like honestly, I would have liked to have seen more Lex. He just kind of plays the crazy guy, crazy tech billionaire role in this. But
yeah,
I feel like you could have. It's a storyline where he could have been a much more nuanced character, and frankly, a much more interesting one. Because I feel like I'm a sucker for the trope where the bad guy has to team up with the good guy to beat a worse guy. And I wish that that's a trope they leaned into a little bit more with this. And I guess you know that probably would have been easier if you had had Superman, but it would have been cool to have seen. Um, I don't know, Flash at the with Reverse Flash or something like that. Obviously, we got the Sinestro team up at the end, which is
yeah.
cool. Uh, but even he ended up tweaking out and trying to kill everybody.
Both Lex and Scarecrow felt very cartoonish
That was yeah. I did not. Is that a thing
and
in the
goofy.
comics? I didn't. I like out of everything I've read with Scarecrow, I didn't realize that his whole thing is like I'm only scared of Batman and I need to
Yeah,
be
that's a
scared.
thing.
Is that a thing? Okay, I don't think I've
That's
read
why
anything with that.
he's chasing that idea of fear because he's fascinated by it. But the only thing that terrifies him, because his fear gas doesn't work on him, is Batman.
Hmm. Okay.
So, but he did. It was kind of exaggerated, and especially with Lex, where Lex just goes full power hungry with the ring and stuff. I'm wondering
Yeah.
though, does it feel like they relied too much on Lex with event stuff? I feel like that's
Yes,
a recurring issue that we
it
always see
is.
Lex as a minor villain.
It is, and I wish that, like, again, I wish he wasn't a villain role in this. Honestly,
Yeah.
I wish that he just actually, you know, stepped in and helped.
Yeah, that would be cool. But I also don't feel like, for me, that Lex fits in with Green Lantern mythology and stuff, where I don't even know if he was needed as a character. So maybe I'd push back a little. Because something like Kingdom Come, I felt his inclusion was a lot more natural, where this one, it felt like, oh, well, Lex
No, they
is,
did. They shoved
you
him in.
know,
But like honestly, I think he would have narratively been a more interesting inclusion than Mara in this story, or even Ray. Like,
yeah,
had they actually fleshed him out and given him something to work with, as is, you could have cut him out of this and nothing would have changed. Not really.
right. How did you feel about Hal Jordan as a Green Lantern? Because he's not as focused on, especially in media these days with DC, but this was a big Hal Jordan story of him basically coming back from being Parallax and being taken over this entity and becoming this monster, and now he's revived and trying to reform his image, but still stuck in his own ways. I thought it was an interesting character journey for him, even if I, again, maybe would have wanted more from it.
I'm with you. I wanted more, but I thought it was a very interesting idea conceptually, for sure.
Yeah, and same with Barry was another one where there's parts where they get into it with him and how he feels about everything, but he kind of just reacts to stuff and he doesn't fully take in. And maybe there's those spin-off comics that delve deeper into those
Yeah.
characters, but
I'm sorry. I'm looking at these variant covers right now. Like, this is not from the comic I just read, bro. Like, are you kidding me?
yeah, that's pretty
That's
sick.
that's rad, but like, that feels like a different thing. Again, I wish it had that energy for the whole time. That would have been really cool.
Tonally, yeah. Also, at the end, we get another faction, the White Lanterns. Initially, Sinestro takes control of it. It's like an entity that comes out of the ground, which I thought was confusing. I didn't really fully understand what was going on.
Yeah,
But Sinestro becomes this pure being of light. That doesn't work out for him because it's Sinestro. And then
of
Everwood
course.
becomes a White Lantern, a la the.
And that looks cool. That looks really
That
cool.
looked cool. But
That's a
again,
cool
it
visual.
reminded me of the Black Adam thing where I'm like, all right, everyone's on the team now. How did you feel about
How much,
that?
sorry, how much have they followed that up since then?
They did a sequel to this called Brightest Day, which
I knew that. I did
I
know that.
knew was a big thing because I remember Kyle Rayner being a White Lantern and that being a big
I knew
thing.
that
And I
too.
thought that was going to be in this story, but I guess it's in that story.
You just totally, I, I've heard about this. When was that? That must have been,
That was probably immediately after, I think in 2011.
okay,
Um, yeah, so
release.
I thought the White Lanterns
Yeah.
was interesting. I wish that was part of it more than what it was. It felt like a last minute plot escape to defeat everyone. But I would have loved to see the origins of this entity and stuff and what was going on there.
Yes, I completely agree. I, again, I had a good time with this. I just kind of wanted more on all fronts, besides the art. It looked really cool. It
Yeah,
looked very New 52 as well, I guess. So a lot of people probably won't like that, but
yeah. It's it's one that I appreciated, but I wish Jalen was here because I'm wondering what drew him so much to it because it's one that from an outsider perspective, I'm like, okay, I get why this is really popular, but if I'm not living that in the moment, if I was in 2010, like reading all this stuff, I probably would have been a lot more excited for this
yeah,
than 15 years removed.
yeah. No, I get that as well. You don't really get the benefit of the in-moment hype, right?
Yeah. I will say, related to in moment hype, my edition of this thing came with a prelude from one of the producers of the Green Lantern 2011 movie. Are you opening something, man? It's so.
No, I'm sorry. I'm putting this back in its case.
Man, ASMR. Anyway, it was an opening
Uh, I'm not on my mic
intro.
today. I'm on a different mic. I apologize if I sound bad.
No, you're all good. It was an opening intro from one of the producers of Green Lantern. He's talking about filming the movie, and he's like, Jeff John's gonna love this. We're really working hard. Ryan Reynolds is filming his scenes. We're 3 weeks in. And it was funny to read that in the full context of like that movie not performing at all and not being
Wait,
true
shit,
to
I just realized this came out probably because of that movie, didn't it?
this event.
Yeah, like was that came out around the time of the film?
They both came out around the same time, but this event came out before the movie.
Yeah, but I'm
But it
saying
might
like
have.
a lot of times when they do these big movies, they try and drop like a big comic right before, right?
Right. Yeah,
Was
so
it?
they're
That's
probably
funny.
writing it. They're probably writing it because the movie was in development and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I've still never seen that movie to this day.
not good. Also not the worst thing. Like it's exaggerated the quality of it, but it's also not a great Green Lantern adaptation.
Yeah.
I would say for sure. I don't have any other closing thoughts. I do have an interesting thing that they've never done an adaptation of this. The only thing they ever were going to do, oddly enough, was the Flash showrunner Eric Wallace, who did a lot of the later seasons of the show. He wanted to do a crossover event of Blackest Night and make it a whole thing. And that was actually going to tie into the John Diggle opening the Green Lantern box. But
Crazy.
they never got a season 10, so they concluded with season 9. And in season 8, they actually did Deathstorm, which is like an undead version of Ronnie. So they kind of did something with Blackest Night where it was similar, but not fully, but would you ever want to see a proper maybe animated movie or this adapted into the DCU or something like that?
I feel like if you adapted this into, because again, it's so tied into other things, I don't know how you do it as a standalone movie.
Yeah, it would
The
have to be a
entire
bigger
the
thing.
entire gist is that everyone's fucking dead and everyone's having a bad time. So like everyone's got to die. You need context.
Yeah,
So I feel like you would have to do it in the DCU, and if you do it in the DCU, you got to change a whole lot about it. Because like
I would agree.
as it is on the page, that is not going to work. You kind of got to do what you did with Infinity War and Endgame, I guess, where they changed up the Infinity Saga so much in the films, um, and I thought it worked as well. I feel like you kind of have to do something similar here, where you really nail in on the characters a little bit more.
Yeah, I think something like this would work with where Marvel's at with their universe because of how much history they have. But with DC, you need to build up,
Yes,
and it doesn't have to be a big scope, but you have to have characters that have died in order for there to have an impact. And we don't have a lot of characters that have died. You
and
just have undead
I
Rick
don't
Flag walking around.
I
Like,
don't know how close we're gonna get to that, considering our Hal Jordan's like pushing 60.
yeah, but at the same time, I mean, Hal Jordan being older is usually when the parallax thing happens, and then that shifts into this. So I mean, it could still happen. It just depends how much they want to do. I don't think this is where they're going though at all. I don't
I
think
don't
they want
either.
to. But yeah, overall, good comic. It's not Kingdom Come for me. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that the next one is really hype, and I'm gonna have to ask Jalen about like what he fully feels about this one because I
And
was a little
also,
disappointed.
make sure to send Josh and Jalen personalized messages on Instagram.com telling them what we should read next on the Exploring DC podcast. They would love to hear from you. Make sure to send them a personalized message giving them your comic recommendations right now.
I didn't get a single DM last week.
I know you didn't, and I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to remain positive, but
Yeah,
I wanted to hear your thoughts by you sending personalized messages to Jalen and Josh on Instagram, and none of you did it. Come
I don't
on,
think
we
I
got to
don't
do
think we
better
have
this
the
week.
we need the listener base to for people to shamelessly annoy us, and
Yeah,
we'll get
that's
that
true.
soon once I start clipping everything.
You said you were going to clip me last week, and you didn't do it.
I didn't clip anything yet.
I
I'm
know.
gonna start
You gotta
clipping.
get
I
you gotta clip it.
School is kicking my ass, man, but I'm gonna get on it.
Well, TikTok is more important. Getting
TikTok.
likes on social media outweighs everything else in life. That
You're
is
right,
what art
Jackson.
is about. That is what entertainment is about. It's about getting likes on the internet. That is your purpose in life.
Well, dressing like Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory.
Exactly. And that can be something you get likes on the internet for.
Awesome.
You can be
Are
like, here's
we?
my Sheldon cosplay.
Are you ready? We got a couple news stories. You ready for these ones?
I yeah, I wonder what we're gonna talk about today.
Okay. I'm gonna hit you with two actually Green Lantern related ones. We got some casting. Nicole Ari Parker was cast as Jon Stewart's mom. I didn't realize Jon Stewart's mom was like a character that showed up a lot in the comics, so that's an interesting cast for a TV show. But I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I don't know this actor either, but Jason Ritter was cast as an original character called Billy Macon, who sounds like he's a more wealthy character. People theorize that this could be a like placeholder name for William Han, who is a big character in this story. I'm wondering if that could be a thing
Really?
because his name is
Why do
Billy,
they
and based on
Oh.
the character description of him being like an heir to like his father's stuff, I'm wondering if it's maybe something they want to set up. Maybe
Oh shit. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
could be a
Billy,
wild
yeah.
guess, but
But I see where people are coming from with that.
right.
Because Jalen seems to think that they're doing the storyline that leads up to this, I think.
With the parallax and stuff.
Yeah.
That's my concern because that's not exactly something I want to see right away. That's
Well,
something you'd want to see from Green Lantern. It's a controversial story too. It's not
that's
exactly a
exactly what Jalen said. He said that it's one of his favorite Green Lantern stories, but not one you do right out of the gate.
yeah. It's reminiscent of when they did Death of Superman, like in movie two. It's like it's a cool story. Don't do it off the bat because you're gonna be not have the development of the character to fully
Yeah.
get that. I'm I'm still excited for Lanterns. I feel like they have the creative team there. I think they
Yeah,
have
absolutely.
a lot of passion for it, and it's a proper HBO show. I have trust in it. I'm hoping it doesn't let me down. So
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll be there day one for sure.
yeah. Next one came out today. We'll talk about it real quick. Colin Farrell is reportedly in talks to play Sergeant Rock in the movie by Luca Guadagnino. This one's interesting because he is actively playing the Penguin in the Batman universe. I don't hate this, but at the same time, I think it's confusing for people. Even if obviously he doesn't look like himself in the Penguin, him playing two leading DC characters is a lot for him to do.
You know what my reaction was? I had the exact same reaction I had when I first saw he was announced as the Penguin, where I was
Yeah.
like, huh, that's not who I would have picked.
Right. It's weird, right? But I also
Ye-
thought Daniel Craig was weird.
That made more sense to me than this does. But I don't even mean that in a bad way. Like I'm down with this. You know, put Colin Farrell in anything. He's great. I mean, just the idea of Colin Farrell being in a Guadagnino movie is
Hmm.
awesome. I love that. Guadagnino's a great filmmaker. Colin Farrell's a great actor. I'm here for it.
Everything this I've seen from this so far, of like all the casting and Luca being attached and stuff, it's all telling me that Sergeant Rock is supposed to be like a one-off type of thing. It's not
I
gonna
think
be a
so.
they're not casting for him to be in 10 years of stuff. It's gonna
No,
be
because
like a one and done.
I don't think Colin Farrell would sign on for it. I know he hasn't signed yet, but I don't think he would even be considering it if it wasn't just a one or done situation.
Yeah, I think they just had a good script and Luca wants to do it. Also, Sergeant Rock doesn't really tie into the greater DC universe. He's
No.
very much stuck in it's like the Howling Commandos. It's not
Yeah.
something you bring into the modern age. I've never been super excited for this, but I like the creative team. I like Luca.
Oh, I don't give a fuck about Sergeant Rock, but it's just like Ludo Guadagnino is one of those directors where
You're
he's
there.
releasing something in theaters, I'll go see it. Like
Yeah.
pretty simple. I saw Challengers, I saw Queer, I thought they were both really good. I'll be there for the next one.
Do you think this will have like a big budget and be pushed out, or do you think
I
they're gonna
feel
try to make
like
it a smaller release,
I feel like they're gonna do take a Clayface approach with this in terms of
mid budget?
budgeting. Yeah, I think it'll be
Hmm.
mid budget. I don't think you need a massive budget to do a World War II war movie, right? Not effectively. Like, what did they
Not at
spend?
all.
Hold on, Dunkirk budget. I'm curious what they spent on that.
A Nolan movie
Oh,
probably isn't the
fuck
best
me. Yeah, you're
best
right.
metric.
They spent $150 million on that movie. Don't listen to me.
Yeah,
That
I
is an
know.
expensive movie. I'm trying to think of just like a good point of reference for this,
Like
but I
1917 maybe, but that was all in one take too. So I'm not too
1917
sure.
budget
You
between
could
90
get,
and $100 million. The point
I
being, I
think,
think it'll be around that range. Like the you
yeah,
know,
50 to 100 million or something like that.
yes, yeah, I think it'll fall in there somewhere.
You could budget it whatever you budgeted the original Joker at, something like that. Not the second
Yeah,
Joker, but that would cost $1 million, but
yeah.
the first Joker, which only cost like 50 or something. I'll have to see. Are they filming it this year? That seems like what their intentions are is to film it soon if they're casting for it.
It, yeah, that feels like where they're headed with this, but at the same time, I don't think we've heard anything concrete.
My concern is that they have too much planned for next year. If they have a Clayface movie, a Supergirl movie, and then now this, and then the Batman 2 is also coming out on top of that, and Lanterns, if Lanterns doesn't come out this year, that's a lot to push on people. And we've seen how that works at Marvel, where it becomes too much.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we've talked about that before of what their plans are to their slate plans. I think they got it under control, but we'll have to see. The last thing I got for you was a report came out, I think from Puck. It was a newsletter that WB obviously not in good shape. Hasn't been in good shape for years with the whole David Zaslav Discovery merger. They're saying that Superman is like a make or break movie for shareholders, and David Zaslav kind of sold its value of a company as the DCIP is very valuable, and
Yeah.
that's why Warner Brothers itself is valuable. If Superman doesn't do well, on top of how terrible 2023 was with all those movies flopping, they're saying it's going to be like a really tough situation to come back from if it doesn't do well.
I think that's, can I be honest with you? I think that's idiotic on their part. All
Yeah,
right. Well, it depends on, okay, did it mention when it says that it needs to do well, is that critically or financially or both?
I think it's financially, not critically.
I figured. Okay, that's dumb as hell. I think that they need to have the fucking self awareness to realize where the brand of DC is at right now.
Yeah.
Um, I think that they need to be able to sit down and be like, look, Rome was not built in a day. We're in the shitter. It might take us a little bit of time to get out. What we need to do is make good movies. And if we make good movies, audiences, word of mouth, audiences will start to come. It makes me nervous that they're putting this much on Superman. And if they're putting this much on Superman, then where the fuck is the marketing? Like,
Yeah,
it's been
I
one
agree.
trailer and radio silence. I don't understand what the thought process is there. If this is what your entire universe is riding on, if that's really what you want to say, if you want to put all your eggs in one basket, then market it, man. Like market the hell out of it. It's Superman.
Well, my thing too is that ever since he took over, Discovery merged in 2022 because AT&T sold it. WB's just been a mess.
No,
I
Zaslav's
think
a
I think like it's
oh,
valuable, but at the same time, they're also trying to actively gut this company every day, and you
yes.
can just tell by the marketing for every movie that they've been doing. Look at Mickey 17 that they delayed a million times, just came out recently and absolutely flopped
Well,
because
but
there was
it's
no
funny because they delayed it a bunch of times and then they moved it up a month because they wanted to get rid of it.
literally. I don't understand.
Zaslav's a knuckle fuck. Like,
They have a they have a whole movie starring two Robert De Niro performances coming out this weekend, Alto Nights, and no one knows about it just because WB doesn't market anything anymore. I mean, shit, they just sold off that
yeah.
Looney Tunes movie as well. It's that's where I'm concerned with
And
Superman. Where
apparently
I'm like,
that's
they don't
leaving
care.
theaters this Thursday.
Is it really? I just
Yeah,
saw it. It
that's
was
what I
great.
heard.
Yeah,
I do want
they
to.
didn't
I want
distribute
to
it.
see it, and it's like I can't see it this week. So like, what the fuck? Am I cooked if I don't see it in 1 week?
Yeah,
Jesus Christ! Like, yeah, I think Zaslav's a. I don't like him at all. I it does concern me quite a bit that he's putting all his eggs in this particular basket because DC is just not a
yeah.
brand with a lot of good faith right now in terms of regular people.
I think it's also it, but yeah, it just ties back into like even pre Zaslav. I just don't think WB has been a well
No,
managed
no,
company
no,
in
no, no,
10 years,
no.
and it sucks because my favorite IP, the one I created a whole podcast for,
It's
it's
under their,
stuck
it's
with
at their mercy.
it's
Yeah,
stuck with the worst of the five major companies. Like I would say maybe Sony would be the next worst option, but every other thing I think would handle it a lot better. Universal, Paramount,
yeah.
Disney, even. So it just I'm curious to see if Superman.
All right.
I think if it hits 300, 400 million, it's that's not good. I think if it's 500 plus, we're chilling.
Yes,
We're
but
okay.
let me ask you something. If it does
Yeah,
only hit that 300, 400 mark, what happens? Like, what do you think are the consequences of this?
that's tough because I would say Supergirl's still in production, right? I would say Clayface at that point is still in production, but we've seen WB write off stuff, and we've seen them literally not release movies. I
Do
could,
you, Would I? Sorry to cut you off, but like I almost
yeah,
feel like what would happen there is it would just be the same shit that happened last time. Is Aquaman 2 released in theaters.
right.
Be that thing where they just dump them. You know,
They're just dumping
and
them.
that's what I worry is like I feel like if Superman, I'm worried if Superman flops that they're just gonna kind of let it fizzle out, and that sucks. I hate that.
I think my bigger concern is that if WB doesn't have a good financial year, especially I'm curious to see how this Minecraft movie does that they
Oh
have.
Jesus Christ! Are they the ones distributing that? They
They're
are.
distributing
I
Mine.
forgot about that.
That's a big one too. If
That
Minecraft
shit
doesn't do
looks
good,
so bad.
yeah. If Minecraft doesn't do good though, and Superman doesn't do good, and they have a poor financial year, I'm wondering if the company still fully exists, or if it gets sold off in parts, or sold off to a different company by the end of the year.
Ugh.
You know, and that's a complete shakeup for everything.
Dude, we don't need to lose another one.
But I mean, I don't think like that was the whole Discovery merger. I is what when it got taken over, I was like, they're gonna have it for a couple years, use what it's worth, and then sell it off
Yeah,
because they don't care. They make reality TV shows. They don't need this huge conglomerate.
yeah, no, for
But
sure.
AT&T didn't either, and that's why they sold it off in 4 years. This is all corporate talk. It's not as fun as DC, but
No,
it's
but I
something
mean,
that's gonna affect everything
yeah, I was
going
about to say
forward.
the corporate side of this, like our the cinematic universe that we have been promised is at the mercy of corporate overlords. So,
Right.
you know,
And
they're
that's
the
the
ones
frustrating
cutting the
part.
checks. Yeah.
It's the
And it,
frustrating part of them coming forward and being like, we have this, and this planned, and we're going to do 6 years. I'm like, do you, though? Because you're by a company that I don't know if it's going to last 6 years. So, like, tell me, give me proof that it's going to be.
yeah, like I trust James that if, you know, they cut the checks, they do it. I'm sure. But
Yeah,
it's a matter of if they keep cutting the checks.
right. Right now, Superman box office, where are you feeling? Because I'm thinking it's going to be mid range. I think 500 million is like a good
I feel good
estimate.
about a 600 million return.
You
If it's
think so?
good. If it's good, which I have
Okay.
faith it will be.
How good? You think it's going to be like, we're thinking great, or like 70, 80
You know,
good?
it's hard to say because we've seen 2 seconds of this movie.
That's true. That's
You know
true.
what I'm saying? Like
But it is
we
Gunn. I
we
have
know
confidence in
I
him.
do too. But we've seen so shockingly little of it. We have
Yeah.
a teaser. That's it. And there's like what? One line spoken in the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a great teaser. I just like we need to see more. And it looks so good on an IMAX screen. Oh my god.
I will say something that gives me confidence too with Gunn is that his last three projects, what? Suicide Squad did day and date with HBO Max, but it also performed very well for day and date
Yes.
with it didn't make its money back, but for what a day and date movie did, Peacemaker became like the number one HBO Max show. Granted, there was barely any shows, but still. And then Guardians of the Galaxy made close to 1 billion. So
Yeah.
there's the reliability there. I think financially he can really sell this thing, but they need to start marketing it, like you said, and it needs to happen in the next couple of weeks. Otherwise, we're not looking good at all.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts on anything? I'm just concerned, but I'm excited for
I don't
everything.
like David Zaslav very much.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. Fuck you. I I just want Looney Tunes, man. That's
That's
if
crazy, man.
if we're talking about WB franchises, like it's DC, and then it's my goats, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, and
Yeah.
let's stop shenanigans here. But anyway, thank you everyone for listening. Next week, right now, we are planning to do the Harley Quinn season 5. We'll see how that pans out, but we have some other cool things planned for April, and hope to see you soon. Thank you for listening.